This week on the show, we're talking career coaching, resume tips, and more with Dellyn Lee of Dellyn Digital. Let's do it! Hey, we're back. We're back again. Episode 2 of the Game Industry Job Hunt Podcast. My name is Joe King. Thank you for being with us. I really appreciate it. I think we've got a good show for you this week. We are talking to Dellyn Lee of Dellyn Digital. Dellyn's a career coach and recruiter and has tons of experience in that HR world. And so I decided it would be fun to sort of pick his brain and have him give me all the secrets that the recruiters don't want you to know, right? Because I'm sure there are a lot of them. Lots of ways to make recruiters' jobs easier that they don't want you to know about. So anyway, we're going to get right into that in a second. Before we do, please remember to subscribe or follow the show wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, whatever the case may be. Also, you can follow me and the show on LinkedIn and Twitter. Links can be found on GameIndustryJobHunt.com. I have a resources page there on the website that has all kinds of links that you may find useful. It's basically stuff that I have found useful as I'm job hunting myself, and I want to share it with you. So check it out on GameIndustryJobHunt.com. Okay, so with all that out of the way, let's jump over to my conversation with Dellyn Lee of Dellyn Digital. Dellyn Lee is a job coach with a video game twist. He's got 9+ years of experience in HR and tailor services based on player types to help you take down the boss called the job hunt. Dellyn, what's going on, man? Thanks for being my first guest on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thanks again, Joe. We all got to start from level 1, so I'm glad to be starting this journey with you.
Absolutely, yeah. Podcast level 1. Here we go. Cool. So, you and I got in touch a little bit ago. I'd say a couple months ago, I guess now. We've kind of been in contact with each other. It's been really great. And, the more I've gotten to know you, the more I'm seeing you're doing some really cool things in the coaching arena, I guess we could say, based around, like I just said in that intro there, you tailor your services based around player types. And I'm using my quote fingers here. Go into that a little bit and kind of explain really quick what that means exactly.
Yeah. So basically I was looking up the internet, thinking about what to research because I love looking into things. And I came across the player types, Bartle theory of player types. And that's this researcher called Bartle, Richard Bartle. He's like a famous game researcher, writer, things like that. And he made this thing called the player types that basically breaks down players within 4 different types. That's the achievers, the explorers, the socializers, and the killers, and they all equate to card suits as well. So from my thinking, I said to myself, being in HR for like about 9 years and doing a lot of talent acquisition, reaching out to people and things like that, those roles, those suits per se equates to different roles that a person would be, good at, like the killers or the clubs. They're basically motivated by confronting and suppressing other players. Think Elden Ring or think fighting games. They have that competitive edge to them. So they could be probably good in sales. Or, socializers, think about the social aspect of games like having clans or even Animal Crossing. Those players like to kind of harbor and have a community-based kind of gameplay. Think about content creators like myself, or maybe community managers, or maybe even HR. Explorers are more of those people that like to go out into the world, explore different worlds like Skyrim, Cyberpunk maybe, or even Breath of the Wild. Those players could equate to different roles like travel blog. And of course, achievers are basically people that like to improve themselves and, beat their own high scores, i.e. like any kind of old school kind of game when it comes to like getting high scores like Pac-Man or something like that and just beating their own scores. And that could kind of equate to other roles as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's so interesting. How did you get from, we said you've got 9+ years of experience in HR and all this. How did you get into, career coaching and sort of finding this method and kind of building everything out from there? What was that process like?
Yeah, so that was an interesting process. And that was last year of October when I kind of sat down one day when I come home from work and I said to myself, I could have all these ideas and I want to kind of implement them. And I kind of sat there for like at least 2 weeks straight, just working on a business plan. I just looked up a skeleton of one and I started putting things together and thinking of ideas and been writing on my of course notepad. and going through ideas, and then that came into something like this, and that's how I came across the Bartle theory of taxonomy. And I even was a little bold, and I reached out to one of my mentors that I always follow on YouTube and things like that. His name is George Bruno. Listen, my son, basically, he's like a job coach kind of guy for men's coaching, and I reached out to him, and I got invited onto his podcast as well, and
Oh, nice.
talking about conversion chemistry and stuff like that. And I that's how I started. I said, let me just make my own company out of this, help people in the video game space, and go from there. But it's in any industry though. So gamer,
Yeah.
if you're a construction worker and love playing video games, an accountant, an artist, a UX designer, I definitely want to talk to you if you most definitely love video games, because there's something that we could relate to as well.
That's really cool. Yeah. I just, I found recently, and as you know, and I've gone into in the last episode, sort of in the intro episode, I myself am on the game industry job hunt. And that's the reason that I started this podcast, is to sort of bring voices like yours together with others and other resources that I can find, and kind of bring that into one audio package for people where they can sort of listen to the show while they're job hunting, things like that. I've seen a lot of career and that kind of thing floating around, and I've never really explored that avenue until meeting you, actually. And
Oh
then
wow.
it just never really occurred to me. And I think that the last time I was looking for a job was let's see, 20, like actively looking would be, 2019. So it's been a while.
Yeah, it's a hard market too.
It is.
It's not just you. It's a hard market.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, back then, I think career coaches were obviously a thing, but now it's a lot more prevalent. And I really do think that a lot more people are thinking, I need to get every advantage I possibly can, right?
Right.
So, with that in mind, sort of go through a little bit for those that don't know exactly what a career coach does, and why you think someone who's on the job hunt might want to consider working with one.
Yeah, of course. So basically, a career coach basically goes through different things, different steps in the interviewing process, or the job hunting process. Most people do, resume audits, which is basically looking through your resume and giving you some pointers on what to do, kind of thing. Some people like to use it as a freebie kind of thing for the entryway to their other services and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
The next stage from there is, of course, resume writing. Just a disclaimer, there's a lot of ways to write a resume, and you got to make sure you have the right keywords for those said roles, kind of thing. And not everyone look at those little small things.
Yeah.
And then from there is the actual coaching piece. Like, if I know some people that might want to do mock interviews, pretend to be that interviewer and interviewing you, so you get that confidence boost, and also those kind of questions to be mindful of, especially those behavioral ones as well. And basically packaging everything in together when it comes to this. Some people may do YouTube content. I know some people in the space do YouTube content, and they post a lot on LinkedIn as well. So take that in consideration. So basically, a job coach is getting you from point A to point B, understanding this whole job searching strategy and how to optimize your LinkedIn profile and everything in between.
Another funny kind of comparison that I think I made in my own head, at least recently, and again, I've talked to a couple, career coaches in the past few weeks, not necessarily in the spirit of working with them or anything, but just sort of getting their thoughts. And maybe it was a, free conversation, free consultation. And I grabbed it just to chat, that kind of thing. It's a lot like a therapist that is focused on your career. I found it easy to talk to these people, hey, here's what's going on. Here's what I'm dealing with. Here's what I'm thinking about. Here are the good things, the bad things. And there was a lot of really good back and forth that reminded me a lot about talking to my therapist, which, by the way, is also a great strategy while we're on this job industry or this game industry nightmare that we're all going through. Keep mental health in mind and think about a therapist if you think that's right for you. But at any rate, so circling back around to your experience just in HR in general, right? I'm curious because you mentioned a minute ago the resume tips and things people can do on their resume to sort of maximize their chances. What's an example of what do you think is kind of one thing that somebody could do to their resume that might just make a really big difference for them?
Yeah, of course. I mean, one of the most solid things I could think of is most definitely having the right structure. If you don't have the right structure in your resume, you're not going to get anywhere. So if you're like I made I made a funny resume with with
Yeah.
Mario, for
I was
example.
I was hoping you'd mention that. The Mario resume is amazing.
So basically, I went on my website where Mario's applying for a role. Let's just pretend he's applying. He has his resume, he has his picture in there, and everything like that. And he's applying to be a plumber. As we all know, he's a great
Make
plumber.
yeah.
But you come across his resume and you're seeing a lot of different things that's like out of place. He's using different fonts here and there. He has some kind of doctor role that he's been in as well, and he's applying to be a plumber. So this is going to throw off the talent acquisition specialist or a recruiter saying what, okay, he's applying to this, but he has A, B, and C. I don't know where this
It's kind of
person's
all over
at.
the place, huh?
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it needs to be very structured to the role that you're applying to, and make sure when you're reading through that job description, those keywords, you kind of point out those keywords and make sure they fit into your resume and what you've actually done over time. I'm not saying copy and paste. I'm saying you have to speak upon what you've done. So if you have those skills, that's good. Incorporate it into your resume and make sure you speak to it. And one last tip, adding metrics to your resume really helps,
Yeah.
because you got to think you're going through a lot of words, and it would be nice to see some numbers and what you could kind of articulate when it comes to your experiences in firm metrics. Saying, for example, hey, if you want to do a call center, I called 100 people within a 1 month span, and I was able to get 3 to 4 sales off of that. That's something that the recruiter kind of equate to the hiring manager, so he or she could have a better understanding what you've done in a short amount of time.
Yeah, that the metrics advice is really great, and that's something I've heard a lot. And I found that it can be really tough to come up with those metrics. To come up with something that you feel like is gonna look good to a recruiter. And that's sort of a tip I actually have that I thought about if you're to be keeping up with some of those metrics as you go, even
Yes.
when you have a full time job. Document the things that you're doing, because
Yes.
later on that can really come back and be. I think it's easy in the moment to think, well, who cares? I'm not really, what difference does it make? But I think that doing that where you can, if it's something that's really impressive that you're really proud of, write that down somewhere so that you have it for later. What's the?
To treat yourself as a business.
Oh,
Treat
absolutely.
your personal self, your personal
Yeah,
brand. Everyone has a personal brand as a business. So you
yeah,
want to keep that information down for the future. Either if you want to kind of push to get a raise and show how much metrics you've done in a
yeah.
short amount of
That
time,
that's a good point too.
or even just somewhere else.
Yeah,
So
the
I agree.
raise and promotion aspect is actually a great example of why you should be doing that and how you can use it even in the shorter term.
Exactly.
When you're not looking for something else to achieve that. I mean, that's great. I think we hear a lot about your personal brand, quote unquote,
Yeah.
sort of get to be like an eye rolly kind of phrase, but it's really true.
Yeah.
It's really true in this day and age. I mean, your social and your online presence is everything for you. And
Oh yeah.
we talk a lot about how you don't want to post the wrong things, post offensive things, and
Right.
bad things that are going to show someone, ooh, we don't want to work with this person.
Yeah.
But
Especially on LinkedIn or Facebook
it's
for
equally good
certain
to.
roles.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah. But yeah, I think it's equally important to pushing that the other way, to try and put yourself out there to some extent. And I know I'm the first to admit this is actually really hard for me. That's kind of one reason I'm doing this show from a personal aspect, is to sort of push myself back out there again and kind of build my confidence in content creation. Stopped, and I've focused now on content creation for work, and
Right.
it can be hard to get into that flow from a personal angle of, oh, I'm going to create content for me that's about me and that benefits me rather than the business I'm working for.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's
it
a hard
is.
switch to switch. I mean,
It's
it's really
it's really
tough.
tough, really really tough. What do you think is the biggest mistake you see candidates making in the hiring process? So, is it their things on their resume, the way they're interviewing, things like that? Like, is there one certain thing that you're seeing a lot as far as mistakes go that you could give some advice to people on, hey, look out for this and here's how you can fix it if you're doing this?
Yeah, I could think about a few. So one main thing I'm seeing people a lot is talking about these ATS bots. Now,
Yeah, the dreaded
now
ATS bot.
the ATS bots. So basically, what is an ATS? An ATS is Applicant Tracking System, right? It's basically, think about an electronic filing cabinet where recruiters and HR and talent acquisition specialists puts all their resumes in one, and they go through different resumes. Now, some have very robust ATS systems like Google and Microsoft and whatnot, but the majority of the roles that you're probably applying to, it's a simple ATS. Just keeps it in one place. You have to answer some few questions through that application process, and then you go through there. So you got to keep in mind of how you're answering those questions, because sometimes they have like knockout questions where you're knocked out automatically if you don't answer it a certain way or whatnot. I'm not sure, depending on what the role you're applying to or whatnot. So you got to really look at that job description and say to yourself, is this really for me? Can I speak on A, B, and C with my experiences, and go from there? That also goes into the application in general. If you're applying to a role that's been posted, let's just say a month ago, you're going to see a lot of applications there. So that's why it's good to kind of search for the most recent roles within that first 24 hours and apply to them. You'll be the first one on the list, and then you go from there. You also take initiative and, of course, go to LinkedIn, see who's posting and stuff like that, and just comment on their posts, make it look visible. Don't post, hey, I applied to your role, get me. No, you got to add value to the post and, be upfront about your skills and stuff in your own personal posts to show how knowledgeable you are. So you can kind of bring people to you. It's a different game now. And, you got to think outside the box when it comes to recruiting. It's so much more than just hitting easy apply and just applying now these days in this market.
100%. Yeah. And I think that gets back to your personal brand, talking about, putting yourself out there. If you're regularly posting on LinkedIn and on social in a way that is showing what you know about your job and what you're capable of doing and what you can do, and even if you're not really trying to become, a top voice or anything like that, that's everything, because then, a recruiter can go to your page and sort of see your posts and see that you know what you're talking about. And, for me, over the past week, I actually decided to create a website for myself, which I also think is a great idea, and really focusing in on, what I've done instead of where I've worked, focusing on like the games I've shipped, the things that all kinds of different information, just letting recruiters know, hey, I know all the different facets of this role and I can do it at a high level. That's a big help too, for sure.
Yeah. I tell people you have 2, maybe even 3+ resumes. Your paper one, LinkedIn, and then if you have a website like yourself, that's good. If you have a YouTube, go. So it's all those things kind of pulling it together, which once again gets into that personal branding side of things when it comes to one person.
The website is great, and I really would, anybody listening, if you haven't yet, get online, find a a cheap. Most websites, they're actually really cheap for just the like
Squarespace.
Squarespace. Yeah, and I use Wix, and they're all really good, and you can get those for less than $20 a month. Which I know can be expensive, especially when you're you don't have a job currently, there's no money coming in, but I really think it's worth it. And I really do think, I really believe deep down that as I'm getting mine updated and it's finished and I get it out there, I really believe, I have a good feeling that it's going to help me generate more. So of course, listeners, I will keep you guys posted on how that goes, of course. So keep listening.
And you can just put it on your LinkedIn, have it straight to the website, and just have traffic towards it, and then you're good to go.
And it gives you more space too. It lets you sort of lay out how you want to talk about these roles and these things that you've done in the past, and then your skills and stuff like that, in a really easy, keep it easy from a user perspective. But it just gives you a little more space than LinkedIn or a social profile might. So, putting together this list of questions reminded me of, when you're having an interview, the biggest piece of advice everyone says about an interview is make sure you ask some questions yourself, right?
Yes.
So as a recruiter, how important is that for candidates to come prepared with a few of their own questions? And, what is one question that someone could ask you as a recruiter that would really impress you?
Wow. So a very good question. So it's very important to have questions towards the end, because A, it shows your interest in the role, and B, it shows that you're paying attention.
Yeah.
Right. So when it comes to me, oftentimes I like, that's a good question. I do like it when the person kind of goes online, see what the company is currently doing, what they did in the past, and kind of have a question around that. So let's just say if the company posts, hey, we made X amount of sales in this quarter and we partnered with a certain brand, let's just say Microsoft, and things are going well. You can kind of come to the interview saying, hey, I know you guys work with Microsoft. That's really awesome that you got that big deal and things like that. Don't make the question too pushy, as in like you kind of like searching for something on their side. Make it frame it in a way where you're like you want to learn more about the company, and plus you don't want to push any buttons when it comes to, oh, I'm just reaching for this just to get any information.
Sure.
Frame it in a way where you're saying, hey, I'm interested in what you guys are doing. I have a question about how you're working with Microsoft, and how can this role in particularly play a role to furthering on you guys' profit, something like that.
Cool.
Make it more keen. Or if you want to get more personal and see the other person's point of view, a nice classic question is, what's your experience with this company and how long you've been here for?
I think that last one is really good. That's one that I do always ask. And it's like you said, it's sort of a classic go-to for everybody. It's not like it's oh, wow, out of left field, this guy thought of this amazing question. How impressive. But for me, it's really great about getting a sense of the culture at the company that you're interviewing with without having to say, tell me about the company culture, which I'm sure recruiters get.
A lot. Mm-hmm.
Not only do you sort of knock the culture question out with that one, but yeah, also it's great to get that, that one-to-one view of sort of how they view the company, the person that you're talking to, and what they like. Or they're probably not going to tell you what they dislike at that stage, but you may be able to get a sense of that. You never know.
Yeah, you could check their mannerisms, check their eye contact, and things like that. And it's a good way to kind of open up to the person, because oftentimes if you ask them like that, they'd be like, wow, this person actually wants to, when I meet the person, I mean, the recruiter says, wow, this person actually wants to learn more about me and my experiences, how the company is. I've been here about 10 years, so I could give them more of a senior top level kind of viewpoint of the company, and then kind of go from there. So it's really good to kind of break the ice.
So as we're recording this, it's early August right now, in 2024, and we just last week saw a couple of really big, high-profile waves of layoffs. So we saw Bungie lay off 220 people, and then we saw Game Informer actually just shut down. Their entire operation is shut down, which is really sad. The site has been taken down. Now it looks like, as of today, the Twitter account was taken down. So it's really crazy what's happening there. I mean, what's your sense of just the situation in the game industry right now, and kind of, what are you seeing there?
Honestly, I hate it. It's my hobby. It's what I love. It's something I've been doing since I was a kid. These awesome companies get turned down, shut off, and people out of work.
Yeah.
Bungie, I played Halo 2 back in the day. Those were some good times. Game Informer. I recently went to a GameStop. I picked one up, went through the page, and I said, wow, I used to pick up these a lot when I was older.
I have a whole stack of them. I've got a whole stack of them in the bathroom, right? Under the sink. It's great.
But it shows that the gaming industry is in a little bit of a turmoil when it comes to, certain things, especially big companies that have a big, huge budget, huge marketing budget and things like that. Huge executives that oftentimes, they're not so close to the work. They don't really understand what's going on there, and they just make decisions off of that. And it's really scary. You're starting to see some indie studios kind of blossom in a way because of this, and smaller studios kind of blossom. So I'm really seeing that a lot in the gaming space, and even some unions has been forming up here, and what's going on.
The union part is wild, because I saw that the other day. It looks like the first two that I've been made aware of here, just through the media that I've been seeing, is I think it was Bethesda and maybe Activision Blizzard.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, that's crazy that there's unionizing happening in those two organizations. So I kind of feel like that has to be encouraging to some degree. But yeah, I agree with everything you said there. I mean, we're gonna have to, we as an industry, as players in the industry, so to speak, we've got to figure out sort of where we go from here, because the big AAA approach is, you're right, it's definitely suffering. And I do think that like you mentioned about indie studios beginning to flourish, I think that's a big silver lining here. I think we are going to see more of those indie studios taking next steps to grow. Great. And then I know for my part, I'm, as to look. I'm, getting into consulting and doing some things like that as well. So I foresee a lot of people doing some things like that as well. And I think that would be really good. That's going to really
share their experiences.
Yeah, really kind of liven up the industry in different ways. And I'm excited to kind of see where things go. But yeah, right now it's really tough out there. It's crazy.
It is insane. Not only in the gaming space, but everywhere else in every other industry as well. So it's just a world.
That's true. It's really not. It's not just us. Well, Dellyn, so what's the best way for everybody to get in touch with you? You mentioned your website earlier. Kind of tell us a personal brand and online presence.
Yeah, so I've been doing this for at least a couple years, like about a year right now, year and a half, when it comes to really focusing in on my personal branding. So I'm on LinkedIn a lot. Today I just started a test for myself. We're going to start posting at least 3 times a week.
Cool. Very cool.
Then from there, once I kind of wrap that up, I'm going to start making more YouTube content. And, maybe a live stream kind of thing, kind of going through people's LinkedIn profiles. They submit their, information.
I'll go
on there and more of a back and forth kind of thing, engaging.
Yeah, that's a really cool idea. I love that. Listen, we've had a few minutes here to chat, and I feel like I could go on for another. I could go on for hours, man. This has been really great. Thank you so much. I'll plan to have you back on again soon, and we can kind of extrapolate out some of the resume tips and interviewing tips and just some things like that. Focus more on some of that stuff. But yeah, in the meantime, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. It's been great.
Anytime, Mr. King. Anytime.
All right, everybody, that's going to do it for episode 2 of the Game Industry Job Hunt podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate it. Also, thank you to my guest this week, Dellyn Lee of Dellyn Digital. You can check out his website at dellyn-digital.squarespace.com. You learn more about me and this show at gameindustryjobhunt.com. There are links there to subscribe to the show, to follow me and the show on LinkedIn and Twitter, so make sure to check those out, as well as our resources page that just has all kinds of great stuff on it. With that, thanks again. We'll see you next week. Take care.